Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. I want to do a short intro of what I've been doing in the past couple of days to try to clue you in at what you can expect on my channel in the next couple of days, because I have been away a little bit. I only posted like one video a week in the past couple of weeks. This is because I was on a trip and then I had a bit of a hectic time going on with my personal stuff and I was really busy, so I just could not find the time to record more. I did read a lot, but I could not record or edit or post, so I was only doing about a video a week. But now that I'm trying to get more organized and I have a little bit more time on my hands, I want to kind of play catch up, and I'm going to post this video where you're going to see my recent reads. And then on the 21st of June, hopefully, you're going to see my summer recommendations video where I'm going to post books that I recommend with summary settings on the first day of summer. And then throughout this week, I don't know on which day, I'm going to post my progress with the mid-year freakout tag. So kind of wrapping up my favorites and least favorites for this portion of the year, so from January until now. So I want to play catch up and post a couple of videos in a row so you can see that I'm still alive, I'm still active, and I'm going to be more diligent with recording, hopefully starting from now. So yeah, today, on today's agenda, we're going to wrap up all of the books that I read between the 1st and the 15th of June. Most of these really have summary settings. I kind of went on a binge of summary reads because I'm in the mood for them now that it's a bit hotter, and also because I want to find a couple of gems that I can recommend to you with summary settings for the summer as well. A couple of the books that I'm going to mention, I'm just going to gloss over because I've either talked about them before in the previous video that I posted, or because they're still coming up in the next video that you're going to see. The first one that I'm going to mention is a book that I actually finished when I was on my trip to Amsterdam. The book is called One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halle. I've really loved Karina Halle in the past couple of months. I've picked up a couple of their books and I've really loved what I've been reading, so I definitely want to read more by this author. This is why I picked up this book specifically, because it has a summary setting as well. It's a single dad, kind of forbidden romance set in Italy during the summer, so it's the perfect summary read. I'm going to talk about this in more length in the video that I'm going to post on the 21st, and I actually mentioned the synopsis for it in the Single Dad's recommendation video that I did a couple of days ago. I'm going to link it in the cards if you want to check it out. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I can only mention that I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. The next one is another summary read. The book is called Miles and Miles of You by Jennifer Bonds. And this one, unfortunately, I did not love as much as I had hoped. It really sounded good. The premise of it sounded good. So actually, I'm not going to include this in the recommendations video that I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk about it now. The book focuses on Lucy and Miles. They are a personal assistant and boss, and Miles is really like a tech giant billionaire kind of guy, and already from the start of the book I really did not like him because he was really taking Lucy for granted for what she was doing for him as a personal assistant. And already from the start he's presented almost as this really immature, childish, kind of impossible type of guy. And it's very difficult to have an unlikable character from the start of the book and having them continue to be unlikable, and then for me to accept them as like the hero of the story. So this is why the story really didn't work for me too well. The premise is basically Lucy is his PA. She feels very undervalued, so she decides to quit. Good for her. And then when she quits, he's like, oh, so what are you gonna do? You have no life besides this job, so what are you gonna do? And she was like put on the spot. So she said off the top of her head, I'm going to become a travel influencer. I'm going to take my family's Airstream and I'm going to go through a couple of states on a road trip and I'm going to be an influencer. And he was like, yeah, good luck with that. And she left him hanging there for a couple of weeks, and he found out that he cannot function without her. So he decides to look her up and goes on this road trip with her. There were definitely a couple of laugh out loud moments within the plot. There were definitely a couple of like cutesy moments, but I just did not vibe well with him, specifically because he looked like he was very oblivious to Lucy, and then out of the sudden when he saw her like changing her clothes once, he was like, oh, she's a woman and she's like a nice looking woman. And I'm like, dude, are you for real? And really, I did not enjoy this kind of a relationship where he is just completely oblivious to how amazing she is as a person, as well as a woman and as an assistant. And then only when specific things start to happen within this road trip does he get enlightened, but really in a way that, again, feels very mature to me. So I really didn't like this one as much as I'd hoped. I kind of gave it 3 stars, I think. Now that I think about it, it's kind of a generous 3 stars, but I don't want to be too mean with the rating, so I'm sticking to 3 stars. And yeah, you can check it out to see if you might like it, because I do love typically road trip romances, and this one has some fun moments in it, but it just was a bit of a miss for me. So the next book, you're going to see the cover up here somewhere, and I think you're going to catch my drift when I say, when I saw this cover, it really reminded me of Elsie Silver's book. Specifically, it reminds me of Reckless. So I was like, okay, this looks good on paper, like on cover, and I want to see whether it's going to be as good as Elsie's book, so I picked it up. The book is called Rustic Hearts. It's by Amber Kelly, and it is a small town romance, just like Elsie Silver's books, and it features the opposites attract trope. So I'm going to try to explain what the plot is about. I just tried it, but I had a very difficult time saying one word, and I'm going to try to do it again, but saying it slowly. The book centers on the heroine who lives in New York. She has been living in New York for quite a bit of her past, and she's really a city girl. She loves it in the city, and she has her own business designing jewelry. Let's just say that I said that correctly, because I tried it 50 times before and I couldn't. So she designs pretty things for women to wear, and she has this big contract coming up, so she's very much excited to design for this company. But then she gets news from her hometown, from a small town where she grew up, that her grandmother passed away, so she needs to go for the funeral. She goes there, and we immediately are struck by the fact that there's a lot of animosity between herself and her father because of something that happened in the past, and she still hasn't forgiven him for that. And in the meantime, she meets her stepbrother, who is the hero in the story. So you can imagine how much interesting situations arise out of this situation with her stepbrother. So yeah, it was quite a solid read. I wouldn't say it's at Elsie Silver's level of amazingness, but I definitely enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm definitely interested in picking up more by this author, because really the small town vibes are very much present. The opposites attract situation is described very nicely. There were a couple of situations where the small town drama was exaggerated a bit too much, which is why I gave this book 4 stars. But overall, it was a very solid read. I definitely want to pick up more by this author. The next book really took me by surprise, because I have to say that the type of cover that it has, it kind of reminds me of a Harlequin novel. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but it just didn't really compel me to pick it up right away. But when I read the synopsis, I was like, it sounds good, it sounds summery to me, so I'm going to pick it up. The book is called A Lot Like Love, and it's by Jennifer Snow. This book is very much, again, a small town romance, like a city girl that goes to a small town because, again, the grandmother passed away and she was left with an inheritance in this case. She was left with a small B&B that basically the heroine is like, what should I do with it? Maybe I need to sell it and go back to the big city. But then she encounters her high school crush, who is actually a contractor. He's like renovating houses in the area, and he convinces her to renovate the B&B so that she can sell it later on for a higher profit. And the romances between the two of them. And the nice thing about this story is that the hero is also a single dad, so there's a lot of interactions between the heroine and his child, who is very adorable in this story. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it took me by surprise. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I gave it 4 stars, and it was definitely a very cute, I don't know how to say, maybe kind of whimsical and kind of soothing. You know, when you watch home renovation shows, and you get like a kick out of seeing how before and after is going to work out. This is actually how I felt with the story, actually, and it's very funny that it includes renovation within the story. But really, it left me feeling like, how is this story gonna go? I'm not sure whether it's going to work out well. And then in the end, I was really pleasantly surprised. So I definitely recommend this one as a summary read, and I'm definitely going to include it in my next recommendation video as well. So you know how Kate Canterbury, I think her name is pronounced, blew up with In a Jam? I really want to pick up that book, definitely. But because Storytel has uploaded another book of hers in an audiobook format, I picked up that one because it also sounded summery to me. But the book is kind of also a 3rd book within a series. I don't know why Storytel hasn't uploaded the first 2, but I just picked up the 3rd one because I think on Goodreads it said that it can be read as a standalone. It definitely can, but I'm not sure whether I missed anything because I didn't read the first 2, to be quite honest. The book is called Far Cry, and it's part of the Talbot Cove book series. And in this book, we have the hero and heroine, Brooke and JJ. Brooke, she is stuck in this small town because her father has an illness and nobody knows about this. She's kind of keeping it secret, and at the same time she's a workaholic, so she's spending all of her time working on her projects. And then we have the hero JJ, who works at the small town's like bar, if you will. And he actually has big dreams. He wants to open a distillery in the small town, so he's looking for investors. And the two of them actually have an attraction together, but they don't want to move in on that attraction because they know that it's not going to lead to anything positive, because they actually don't seem to like each other very much at the start of the book. But still, they kind of strike up this friends with benefits situation, and when the heroine learns that he has this plan, she wants to help him out, but he immediately rejects her. So there's a lot of back and forth going on between them. We see that both of them have some kind of conflict going on within their situations, her with her dad, him with his business plans, and they're both really reluctant. And when I say reluctant, like both of them are really reluctant to be in a relationship. So that is, I think, what kind of influenced me not to be as invested in the story as I would have wanted to, because I think that when one of the protagonists is reluctant and the other one is kind of more for it, then it makes for a better push and pull. While this was kind of clashing, and both of them kind of, someone needed to relent, and it was very difficult to get through that point until someone relents. So yeah, I did like the story, but I definitely think that the other book, In a Jam, because it has again a small town setting but a completely different story to it, I think I will like it more. I did give this book 4 stars because it's not by any means a bad book. It's just that I would have wanted it to be a bit more focused on the romance and not so much on the conflicts that they had. So I would recommend it, technically speaking, but it wasn't a favorite of mine. The next book I picked up, I didn't enjoy almost at all, to be honest. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The book is called Wolf by Penelope Black, and it's a Why Choose Mafia romance. that features a heroine who just graduated. Was it high school or college? I'm not sure anymore when she graduated, but she sounded very young to me. And she gets a very weird news that her mother is now engaged to like a very notorious Irish mobster. And she needs to go with them on a summer retreat or something like that so that she can meet him and meet his family. And she meets his 3 sons, who are all adoptive sons. And it's a romance between herself and the 3 guys, basically. But in this book, we focus on the romance between herself and one of the guys, whose name is Wolf. And I just didn't like this book. I didn't like it. I found that it was dragging. It was boring. It's presented as a mafia romance, but the mafia aspects are just so mediocre. And I didn't find that I felt a connection between herself and the other guys, and I found it predictable, to be quite frank. So I just didn't enjoy it as much as I'd hoped, so I gave it 2 stars. So for the next couple of books, I'm just going to mention the titles, my rating, and the tropes within the books, because the actual synopsis of them is going to be mentioned in my summer recommendation video, because I really liked the books that I'm going to mention. The first one is called Summer Heat Wave by Lauren Smith. I gave this book 4 stars. It features the enemies to lovers trope, like seriously enemies to lovers. And we have a setting on a retreat, I think in the Bahamas. It was set in a very unique kind of a hotel concept. And we have a bit of a fake dating relationship going on in this book as well. It was really, really short, steamy, very much, it packed a punch, if you get my drift. It was really kind of developing very fast, but it really worked out well with the enemies to lovers trope. So I'm going to mention that one in my summer recommendations video for sure. The next one is called Ciao for Now. The book is by Kate Bromley, and this book I really enjoyed because it really reminded me of the show Emily in Paris. I gave this book 4 stars, and it's very reminiscent of Emily in Paris, but then set in Italy, which I absolutely love because I love Italian settings. And this one really gave me all the feels. It also reminded me a bit of The Devil Wears Prada. So just a lot of references for me that made me think of things that I absolutely love. So I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. And then the next one is Broken French by Natasha Boyd. This book is a nanny romance. It features a single dad, so I mentioned it in my single dad's recommendation video. And it's very much a slow burn. So I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. So these 3 books you can expect more details on in my next video that I'm going to post in a couple of days' time. So the next book I actually picked up because Caitlin from the Love Librarian recommended it, and I included it in my June TBR, so I'm really happy that I actually managed to read it. The book is Go by Alexandria House. It's a nanny romance, but a bit of an unconventional type of nanny romance because we've got the hero Malik. He's a hockey player and he has a very strained relationship with his father, and his father actually comes to pass away, and he has 2 children that don't have parents anymore. They're orphans, so Malik is left with taking guardianship over his half siblings. So he has these 2 siblings who are teenagers who need to be taken care of, and he is very dedicated to his career, so he needs someone to assist him with taking care of the kids. He is actually engaged, so he was hoping that his fiance would help him out, but the fiance is an actual despicable human being, because even before the kids come to play, she is very kind of obnoxious. But when the kids come into the picture, she's like, I'm not going to take care of kids that are not my own, so we're going to have to hire a nanny. So she finds the nanny. This is the heroine within the book, Nuri. And Nuri has a bit of a situation on her own. She used to be a teacher, but she was part of a school shooting, so she has a lot of trauma because of the event that happened at her school, so she cannot teach anymore. And she's very happy to spend time with the kids, and she immediately forges a very good connection with both the kids but also with Malik. And this is obviously straining the relationship between Malik and his fiance. So there's a lot of a triangle thing going on within this book. And like I mentioned, the fiance is absolutely despicable. So there are times when I'm like, oh, I just want her out of the picture. That's why I gave this book 4 stars. I did have some kind of anxiety building up because of the situation with the fiance. But at the same time, I love the relationship between Malik and Nuri, as well as Nuri and the kids. So it was definitely a very enjoyable read, and I definitely would recommend it. So the last book I'm going to talk about is one that I had so many thoughts and feelings on. I read the audiobook for it, but if I had a physical copy in my hands at the end of the book, I would have chucked it and really would have been so mad. So mad. I was so mad when I read it. The book is by Kimberly Brown and it's called Tethered Love. And it's a bit of a crazy book with a crazy plot. So we've got the heroine, Elena, I think her name is, and she used to be very happily married, but she had 6 miscarriages, so she could not have a child of her own with her husband. And her best friend actually is pregnant, but she comes to pass away. So in her will, she appoints the heroine as the guardian, as the mother of the child. So already as a baby, she takes in the baby. Together with her husband, they decide that they're going to bring up this child. But then a couple of years in, her husband passes away because he gets into a shooting. So a lot going on there with her part of the story. But then the hero is actually the biological father of the child that she's raising, who doesn't know that he has a child. And it's basically the child who is now a teenager, like 13 years old. She starts to look for him, and she finds her biological mother's letters or journals, and she finds out who her father is. So she looks him up, and there is a big conflict going on at the start of the book, because basically she leaves her home without telling her mom and goes on a plane to a different state to look her father up. And I'm like, how does that happen? I mean, I'm not sure in the States at what age you're allowed to go into a plane without company, but I think in Europe that's 16 years, so I'm not sure how a 13-year-old got out of state. But anyway, that's like my point of thought. So yeah, basically the story starts from there, and I don't want to tell you anything more about the story, but I do want to tell you why I was so frustrated in the end. The epilogue of the book did one thing that I think most of the romance readers absolutely hate, and that is, it's kind of a spoiler, so I don't know, like if you don't want to get spoiled on this, if you're definitely planning on picking this book up, just skip forward, don't listen to what I'm going to say. But yeah, basically this woman has a medical issue. She couldn't have children. She had 6 miscarriages. And then in the epilogue, she's pregnant. Or she had a child. I'm not sure if she's pregnant or she had a child, but I'm like, is this Miracle Lane? Or like at least don't put it in the epilogue. Like, mention her journey of how she became pregnant. Like, was it IVF? Did they do something specific? What happened? Like, I know that miracles happen, but to have this in a romance book in the epilogue, after having read about how much struggle she had having lost those babies, was like, no. Like, no. It just was so bad for me to read. And then additionally, the book has a lot of other woman drama and a lot of psychotic breaks and a lot of romantic suspense kind of elements thrown into it that were kind of almost unbelievable. And I'm like, this could have been a 5-star read, because the original premise of her taking in the kid finding the dad, them falling for each other because they need to co-parent, it really sounded good. I mean, it could have been good, but I was like, so many things went off the rails in the last 90 or 80 or 90% of the book that I was like, you lost me there. You know, you lost me there, and there's no point of return. I think I gave it 3.5 stars and rounded it up to 4 stars because it actually has quite a high rating on Goodreads. I think I was influenced by that. But now that I think about it and I'm reliving the anxiety that I felt in the end of the book, I think that I shouldn't give it more than 3 stars. So I think I'm going to change my rating on this. And I'm really sorry because I really had a lot of fun at the start of the book with this book and I had high hopes for it, but it just didn't work out too well in the end. So I think I'm going to stick to a 3-star rating, and I technically wouldn't recommend it. These were all the books that I managed to finish in the first portion of June. You can look out for my monthly wrap up at the end of the month where I'm going to update you on the next couple of days and what I read. And you can also look forward to the videos that I mentioned before. So the summer recommendations video and the mid-year freakout tag that I'm going to post this week. And I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a bit chaotic, a bit weird, and a bit rushy, and I could not speak for the life of me, maybe because I'm trying to do it in a rush, but I promise to do better next time. So I hope you enjoyed this once again, and I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.